Hey gang, listen, I know that my numbering system is all screwy today. That's just because my day is all screwy today. I am participating in a plein air event here in Norfolk, Virginia. And much of the time today, my time has not been my own. I've had a great time visiting with people who are watching, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So my numbers are all screwed up. Sorry about that. I usually like to keep those things straight, but just a little bit beyond the pale today. So right at the moment, I'm doing a little bit more dark details, and after that, I believe I'm going to do some colored glazes, and then white highlights, and then I'll move on to oils. So that's a pretty, if you're not keeping score, if you're keeping score, that's a pretty quick turnaround. That it's not very many layers. It's not many as many layers as I would like to do, given the complexity of the subject matter. Very complex. Can I say that again? Crazy complex subject matter, and to try to knock it out in this few number of layers is kind of gutsy, but there you go. That's me, kind of a gutsy artist guy. It's funny, isn't it? Courage comes in all different flavors. You don't usually call the work of an artist courageous. Unless, of course, you're an artist, then you know very well what I'm talking about. Yeah. And courageous is a pretty good word. What else? Oh, I decided to add a vehicle. A late arrival right here. Late arriving vehicle. I am by no means obligated to paint all the vehicles that show up on any given street. I'm sure you understand that. Oh yeah, I debated for a moment going straight to oils a few minutes ago, but now I'm really glad that I didn't, because there's way too much stuff going on here. It hasn't even been represented at all yet, so. If you haven't heard me say before, it's time to move on to oils when these several things are in place. Again, this is for any of you crazy people who are perhaps want to try my approach to painting. It's time to move on to oils when the drawing, the essential drawing, is mostly done. The drawing is close. Doesn't have to be exact, but it's close. Number two, when the values are close. That may be even more important than the drawing one. When the drawing is close, when the values are close, and when the colors are close. At that point, they don't need to be exact, but that's generally speaking when I'm ready to move on to oils. Maybe just about done with that drawing thing. I think I am. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry for just a minute. So let me pause you guys again. Let that dry. Shouldn't take too long. Then I'm going to come back and do just a little bit of colored glazes, then white, and then on to oils. Generally speaking, when a subject matter is more complex, like this. This, by the way, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses, 3 vehicles, and a whole bunch of shrubs, trees, and fences. So, yeah, that's complex subject matter. And generally speaking, the more complex, the more layers that I do in acrylics. But I think I'm working pretty economically tonight. I think I can get by with just 2 more layers. One is a quick glazes and then white. Okay. Hey John, thank you for letting me know about the bad buffering. I am so sorry. Not much I can do about that. Just painful. I'm sorry. You people that are watching this in replay, of course, will be much smoother. Sorry for about you live people. The alternative is I just don't broadcast, which is a good alternative. But maybe it'll clear up here. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. As you can see, so I did, while you weren't looking, I did glazes. Blue, orange, a lot of orange and yellow over much of this. I think it's all dry. Yeah, I didn't even wait for it to dry before I went ahead and launched into let me get this lined up so I'm just a little bit less, my shoulder's not in your way quite so much. Went ahead and launched, as you can see, into the white, the last white highlight. Quick trick. There. Close enough. You know what? I'm going to, I do this every once in a while. I'm going to do some opaque color. I'm going to mix, just for some of this, I'm going to mix my white with some orange and yellow, because there's parts of this I just don't want it going. I don't want it going all the way to white, the stuff down here. It'll be easier to manage if it's warm to begin with. Of course, I'll warm it up a good deal with the oil glaze, but still a little bit easier to manage if it's warm right now instead of white. I might use that. Where else? Yeah, over here on this yellow house back here. at it, I think I'll do some. Wow. By the way, I'm loving. I'm having a great time right now as far as physical comfort. This is by far the most comfortable I've been all day. This morning it was a little bit chilly and very windy. All afternoon it got hot and sunny, and I'm sunburned this evening because of that. And but now it's perfect. It's like 70 degrees, just a little breeze blowing. I need to remember this moment because it's rarely this pleasant when you're plein air painting. But it sure is right now, and I'm loving it. Now, it's just about dark. Maybe you can tell. I don't know if you can tell. It's just about dark. Sun goes down in 10 minutes, and I'm going to interrupt my painting process to go eat supper with a bunch of fine people who have provided supper for some of us artists. They gave us permission to stay out and paint as long as we needed to while the sun was shining, and then come and eat when it gets dark. So that's very nice. And then I'll be back here to the same exact place in an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half. This is my fourth painting today. That is, now most of them were small, of course, but still, that's a fair bit of work, I'd say. Most artists would agree with me. That's a fair bit of work. This one is large for a plein air painting. 24 by 30 is pretty big for plein air, for plein air, if you want. If you want to say it, it sounds smart with that French accent, plein air, which means in the open air. And again, this is a very, very busy subject matter, as you can tell. And usually, the busier the subject matter, the more layers I do in the acrylic stage. But I've been pretty efficient this evening with the acrylics here. So I feel like I'm actually getting off kind of easy. But this is my final layer of acrylics. My painting is not done tonight when I finish this painting at 11 o'clock or so. If I have any energy left, I'll go back to my apartment where my wife is staying with me. Delightful to have Nancy here with me this year. And I hope to touch up. Now, anything I don't finish tonight by way of touch up, then I'll finish up tomorrow morning. But I don't have a lot of time tomorrow. I've got to have all these paintings delivered. I think it's by 1 o'clock. 2 at the latest. I know it'll set up by 2 o'clock. So that's a lot. Hello.
How are you?
Very good. Thanks for coming around and looking.
Just curiosity kills me.
Yeah, good. That's what we're supposed to make you curious.
Yeah, okay.
If I got your house in here?
Yeah.
Which one is the orange one? The peach?
The orange one, and actually we own the green one also. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
One wasn't enough for you.
Yeah, no.
My
mother-in-law lives.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Enough said. Very good.
Enjoy.
Thank you, I am.
Get your water or anything?
I'm very well taken care of, thank you. I'm being a little too fastidious with those pickets, a little bit too fussy, a little bit too accurate. So let's speed up here. Let's scratch those a little bit too. Okay. First house down, second house down. Ready to move on to the third house. Oh wait, no. This is a, what am I thinking? This is a porch banister railing, so more of that scratchy kind of stuff. Okay, third house. Morning doves singing over my right shoulder. Sweet. Love that sound. Now the white I'm doing in this painting is perhaps a little more fussy, accurate, detailed than the normal for me. And again, I think just because it's such a busy subject matter, and I don't very often use a palette knife in the acrylic stage, but I am tonight. It happens occasionally. Again, I think it tends to happen when there's a very busy subject matter. You know, I talk often about, you know, doing a drawing and then not putting your weight down on it, you know, not counting on it being correct. I must say, as far as I can tell, I got really close on this drawing right out of the gate. So, you know, don't get arrogant, I'm saying to myself. So you lucked out this one time, you know. Just happened to just catch most of the lines in the right place. No one is more surprised than I. So this is not a good example, by the way, for you students. The fact that I nailed this drawing almost perfectly, I might be putting a little strongly, is not an example to emulate. The example to emulate is always make changes. And of course, there may be more changes coming than I think at this point. But it seems to me I got pretty close early on. I've only made a few minor changes. Lucky. Okay, and here I'm saying to myself, while I'm doing this drawing of these houses way down the street, I'm saying, okay, Nelson, keep it loose, man, keep it loose. Don't start tongue painting. Don't start getting all fussy. Keep it loose. Don't get too fussy. Don't lose what I like to call the magic of of abstraction. The magic of abstraction. That's what we do as painters, except for the hyper-literalist crowd. Yeah, which I take every once in a while. I do some hyper-realism too, but generally speaking, I'm doing what I call real painting, impressionistic or abstract realism. So, just my favorite name for this kind of painting. The magic of abstraction is. Hey, Scott. That was so funny. I didn't hear anybody coming. All of a sudden, I heard that gravel crunch. I can't believe you're back for more. Just about done with the acrylic layer here. Yeah, good. I'm just going to clean these brushes. I'm going to do one more thing to this canvas before I switch to oil. It's something I did yesterday morning at downtown, which might become a new tradition. I don't know, and that is I'm going to add some intentional fuzz glow to this white. In just a second, you'll see what I mean. I'll take a couple small brushes. Got one. Okay, I guess I'll use one small and one medium, and just dip it in the white. Get it a little bit damp first. And then just do some, not that much. Okay, that is too much. Don't panic though. I won't panic if you don't. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. Adding fuzz with a rag. Not a bad idea. Let me try that again. Just wherever I really want there to be a real prominent glow. Hitting that windowsill, yeah. Hitting the front of this house, yeah. Up here in the sky. And the front of this fence. I think that's... Remember, if you want something to look like it's glowing, you put a soft edge on it. The softer the edge, the more it looks like it's bright. Okay, I think I'm done. This is a good place for you to pause and get all the acrylics closed up and switch over to oil. Thanks guys for watching. I'll be back in a little while. Hey gang, I am finally back in the saddle. Let me see, it's oh my goodness, 10:15 on this Saturday night, and this plein air event is over tomorrow, and tomorrow I won't have any time to do any new painting. I'll barely have time to touch up the ones I finished. So I am out here in the dark, back in the wind again. Trying to finish up this painting I started this evening. It's cooled down quite a bit. I went for a nice supper with Gail. And good grief, good grief, I'm drawing a blank just because my brain's not working. This is embarrassing. I'll be back in a minute. Oh my goodness, I better not tell Gail to watch this. What a senior moment. Anyway, I had a lovely supper. And did not forget anybody's name while I was there at supper. Okay. As soon as I stop thinking about it, I'll get my wits back. Anyway, let's talk about artwork. I'm doing a scene. Let me show you what this view looks like now. this. Isn't that lovely? Well, it really is lovely, but it doesn't help me very much for finishing this painting. So to do that, I have a phone here that I took several HDR photographs with. Norman! Gail and Norman. I'm sorry. Oh, what a terrible. Had a lovely time. Supper with Gail and Norman and my wife, Nancy, who is here with me this weekend. What a treat. Nice to have her with me. Happily married, honestly, happily married 38 years in a couple weeks. It'll be 38 years. And when we're not together, I feel like I'm not all there. So, I am sitting down painting, you may be sure, because I am now in conserve as much energy as possible mode. That's the mode I am in. So sit down, try to relax, try to have fun, tell myself I'm not exhausted. This is my 4th painting today, which is fairly respectable, I'd say. This is the largest one of the day. I did two paintings larger than this yesterday, and this morning I did 3 smaller paintings, this morning and this afternoon. And now I am back in the saddle, shall we say, finishing this one. So let's talk about what I'm doing. Obviously at the moment you can see I'm doing pencils, the famous or infamous pencils, as the case may be. Last year I was at this event and I was seriously concerned about what the judges would think. That was the first event I had been to since I started using pencils in my oil painting, which, as you know, is an unconventional device. This is not normal to use grease pencils, so to speak. It's actually not a grease pencil, but sort of like. It's an oil-based, wax-based product. And I've told this story many times. I started using them a couple years ago, maybe coming up on 3 years ago now, I think. I did that summer of 2015 would have to be called the summer of the abstracts. I did, I believe, 200 abstract paintings that summer of 2015. It was my biggest foray yet into abstract painting, which I love abstract paintings. I love good abstract paintings. I couldn't give you 3 cents for lousy abstract paintings, so I'm a bit of an abstract painting snob. Anyway, that's a fair warning to all of those of you whose shows I might be judging in the coming months. And if you do abstracts, I like abstracts. You better know what you're doing, because I will not give you credit for just throwing paint around and hoping something happens. Anyway, in the course of doing those hundreds of abstract paintings, I started using these pencils. Simply because, you know, in the world of abstract, there's fewer rules. You can kind of do whatever you want. And I found that I liked the effect so much in my abstract painting that I thought, maybe I should start using those pencils in my normal representational stuff. So I did. And for years now, I've said, I don't know if this is a permanent part of my repertoire, if it's just a crazy phase I'm going through. I have no idea. But now that I've been doing it over 3 years, I'm thinking, this is probably here to stay. The reason I use pencils, again, forgive me, you old-timers, you regulars, you get tired of hearing me say the same thing over and over, but there might be some new people. The reason I use pencils, as you could probably tell by the way I'm handling them, is not primarily to achieve similitude. It's not primarily for drawing purposes. It's not primarily so that I can increase the realism of my paintings. Quite the contrary. I use pencils primarily to add texture. I like the juxtaposition. I like the scratchy pencil lines next to the smushy paint lines, right? Now, this is the second, which is typical. I typically use the pencils twice in my paintings, once in the acrylic phase and once in the abstract phase. And when I finish this layer of pencils, this stage, this phase right here of doing pencil, I will consider my painting to be much too linear, much too liney. It will have too many lines in it. We don't want our oil paintings to be drawings. But please don't worry. Don't get upset. I have several layers of painting to go yet in this painting. And during the course of which much of this line work will be obliterated, but always to taste, just the right amount obliterated, not just wiped out because I don't like it. So anyway, that's the story with why I do pencils. And of course, also it does a little bit add to what I call similitude. It does add a little bit of drawing realism to the painting. So no apologies for that, but it's not primarily a device. By the way, I just decided, right that minute, I just decided to add a person. I should have thought of this earlier, but I didn't. Usually it's not a good idea to add elements. In my style of painting, my world of painting, usually not a good idea to add things. But I think I can get away with it in this case. We'll all find out together if I can't. If it doesn't work, we'll all find out at the same time. That didn't work, Dan. But I think a man or woman walking his or her dog is just a nice psychological focal point. By the way, that is a term with which you should be familiar. I'm sorry you're getting wind noise. That's because it's windy out here. That's because I'm a real plein air painter, and I really paint outside. And there's not an awful lot I can do about that. So sorry about the only alternative I have is not to broadcast at all, which of course is a valid alternative. But then the people who do want to watch me wouldn't be able to watch me. So for the moment, I'm going to continue to broadcast even though the noise is bad. Okay, I think I'm done with the pencils. Let me put that aside. I'm going to try here for a minute, trying hooking up a microphone. Bear with me for just a minute. Let's see if our sound is any better. Okay, let's see if that sounds any. Please let me know if you're listening right now. If you're listening live, let me know. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Let me know if you would, if the sound is better or worse now that I've switched to a headset microphone. Okay, if you don't mind. Okay, time now. Next in line is dark details in oil, dark transparent details. And I don't need many of those. The painting is very close to complete without, and again, if you guys don't mind, those couple of you who are watching, it's only a couple of you. You're probably a stranger saying, oh no, he knows we're watching. No pressure. Just send a text, say, sound better or sound worse. Would you mind? Of course, you might not speak English, whoever's watching me, so you might not know what in the heck I'm saying. Or maybe you walked away from your phone for a minute to, use the restroom, and nobody's watching at all. That's very possible. Anybody? Is the sound better or worse? Maybe you can't hear anything I'm saying. Maybe the sound is so much worse that you can't even hear what I'm saying. Wow, how mad would that be? My goodness. Here I am making all these wisecracks and jokes, and nobody in the whole world to laugh. That is a sad story. That is a sad, sad story. I would hate to think that I'm being all this clever and nobody's even listening. If a man is clever in the woods by himself and he falls down, does anybody hear him? This is one of the questions that has kept philosophers tied up in constipation for centuries. You always wondered why philosophers were constipated, didn't you? Well, now we know. It is questions like these. So, mothers, don't let your children grow up to be philosophers. I just lost one listener. The one listener that I had, the one listener that I had just left me. He said, "This is nuts. I am out of here." Of course, maybe he didn't speak English, therefore he would not appreciate the dazzling intellect, the razor-sharp repartee that one finds on this channel, because he speaks Southern Swahili and has no idea that I'm being clever. Oh, you gotta love the internet. I now have one viewer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, one. All this dazzling brilliance and one viewer. And I believe she is in southern Chile. I mean, southern Chile. Oh, we have two now. Thank you. And southern Chile at this time of year, as you well know, is coming in to one of the worst winter seasons on the planet. That is why she's listening. She's lost in mortal dread for her physical survival. And she doesn't speak English at all. If somebody knows this girl, would you please tell her that the whole world is watching to see how she's going to respond to this pressure? Okay, it must be late. I must be tired. That's all I can say. Those of you who are watching this later, in the recorded version, without the pressure of feeling like I'm watching you. Welcome on board. I'm glad you're here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am doing dark details, right? We talked about that, right? Transparent. Now, I know I don't have to tell you this, because I know you've heard it so many times, and even if you didn't hear it from me, all you good painters know this without me telling you, don't you? Yes, you do. Here it is. You get dark with transparent and light with opaques. Okay? I'm being a little facetious when I say everybody knows this, because clearly everybody does not know this. I wish everybody did. I would sleep better. It grieves me deeply to look at paintings done by someone who's a fairly decent painter, but does not know this simple rule. If you want some part of your painting to be darker than it is at any given time, you want to darken some area of your painting, you do that with transparent, in other words, you glaze to make it dark, like a watercolor painter. Okay? And conversely, if you want some part of your painting to be lighter than it is, then of course, then you use white. The sound is a lot better. Thank you, Charles Moyer. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Appreciate it. Thank you for finally telling me. Well, thank you for small miracles. I'll keep using this. Charles, thanks for the tip. And if it starts getting bad again, please tell me. I mean, I'm in a difficult situation, as I'm normally in a difficult situation, because I am out painting outdoors, of course, near the Atlantic, within 1 mile of the Atlantic Ocean, and within 150 yards of the Sound. So I've got water to my left and water to my right. The ocean to my left, well, Chesapeake Bay to my left, the ocean in front of me, and a little creek to my right. So there's wind, and my point being, so there's wind everywhere. Very windy. And even though I was quite warm this afternoon and got my first sunburn of the season, I am now chilly again and am wearing a jacket, windbreaker kind of jacket. It's fairly early spring here. Well, actually, it's mid-spring, late spring, but this year springtime is so late this year that it feels like early spring. So that's why the weather is early springish. And I am just about done with this dark details in oil. Here's a pickup truck. A bit more detail there. And here's a Jeep, Land Rover kind of thing. And let's darken just one of these trees at least a little bit, maybe a couple of them. Once again, if you're new to following me, welcome. My name's Dan Nelson. I am a full-time professional artist. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been an artist basically my whole life. My dad was a very gifted artist. It wasn't his job, it was his hobby, but he was very good at it. And I remember when I went off to kindergarten at the age of 5, I thought of myself as an artist. In fact, I failed the very first assignment in kindergarten. I remember this. I wasn't terribly embarrassed. I was too young to be embarrassed. The embarrassment came later. But I failed the first assignment in kindergarten because I believe I colored the balloons, when in fact, I think I was, not looking back, I was supposed to count them or something. What the heck? Who needs to count balloons when you can color them, I say. That's right. Anyway, so I already thought of myself as an artist by the time I started kindergarten. That part I can remember. I don't remember how good I was, but that's what I thought of myself. And likewise, every grade thereafter. I majored in art, which was a virtual waste of time and money. And many of you who majored in art, you know exactly whereof I speak. Early to mid-70s, typical college art education. And, you know, I say things like that not terribly infrequently. I'm not always quite that blunt. And I do hesitate. Let me talk about that for just a minute. I do hesitate because I do feel some degree of loyalty to my alma mater, my college. I think that, and I'm not going to tell you where it is, but it wouldn't take too much, wouldn't take too much sleuthing on your part to find out where I went to college. So if you insist, you can find out, but I'm not going to tell you. But it's a good, small, Midwestern Christian liberal arts college, and it really is very high quality, highly ranked every year by whatever publications, some secular publication that ranks colleges. Very fine college. Why do I say bad things about it? Well, because it was bad. I didn't realize at the time that I was probably in one of the weakest departments at this school. And let me talk for just a minute, too, because some of you, either young people who are thinking of majoring in art, or maybe you are thinking of majoring in art. Generally speaking, I would recommend against that pretty strongly. But back to me saying harsh things about my alma mater. The deciding factor for me, is why didn't they teach me? Because they were teaching their students to live, survive, perhaps thrive in the art establishment world. So they were not teaching us how to paint or draw. They were trying to teach us how to survive, at least looking back, this is what I think, in the art establishment of the 20th century. Hang on, let me pause here. I need to think where I'm going to start next. So I'm just about to start the last layer. Unless I want to do a fuzz layer first, but I'm not sure that I do. I think I might just incorporate the fuzz layer into the... Okay, I'm ready to do the last layer. And today I'm going to start with the sky. I always start... There's 4 different places to start this last layer. And forgive me, you guys, you're regulars. You've heard this till you're blue in the face. There are 4 places to start. The sky, the focal point, the lightest spot, or any local color that is in particular need of correction. And the right answer, the right solution for this particular painting, it's different every time. Different every single time. It's different. It's always one of those 4. And this particular time, I think it is the sky that needs my attention. And it's partly because that is some local color that needs to be corrected. It just happens to be both the sky and the bit of local color that need correction. Okay. So my college was very typical, very, very typical of the period in which I lived, and very typical of today too, by the way. They haven't changed an awful lot. They were not teaching me a skill or craftsmanship, primarily, little tiny bit. I calculated one time that in a typical one-day painting class, I teach roughly, very roughly of course, roughly 100 times more information than I got in 4 years of, or 3 years of an art major. Okay, just to give you some idea. Because they were not teaching me how to paint. And I, just in case anybody from my alma mater ever hears one of these, I hope they hear this. Here's the deciding factor. I can forgive my professors for not being independent-minded enough to rise above their peers, to rise above their co-matriculants. You know, if they went to the University of Iowa, art major, I can forgive them for not having the philosophical and personal wherewithal to rise above their peers. I can forgive them for that. I can forgive them for not being genius artists or genius art teacher. I can forgive them for that. I can forgive them for everything. I don't mean. But here is the deciding factor. I don't mean that I don't forgive them for this. I do. But this is the deciding factor. Here's the one thing that puts it over the top is the arrogance with which I was treated by especially my number one professor. The whole department as a whole, but you know, I had a particular. And what I mean by that is, and I think this is ubiquitous in the art education and the music and theater and literature departments, an overweening, well, probably insecurity on the part of the professors that results in an arrogance. I think generally speaking, we're treated with a moderate degree of contempt in this regard. It was like, I'm a good artist, you will never be as good as I am, was sort of the a little bit the attitude that was conveyed. I won't go into specifics how I felt that way, why I felt that way. And the reason I'm saying all this is not to heap scorn or bitterness on I do forgive them completely. I don't hold anything against them. But I do learn my lesson. The real reason I'm saying is this. I think I've learned my lesson. And when I teach, like in the last couple of years, I've taught middle school children a couple of times. 7th, 8th, 9th grade boys and girls. And I'll tell you one thing. I treat them like they are gods in the making. I treat them like they are going to be so much better artists. And why? Because I was taught in college the opposite. They served me a very important lesson because I learned from the negative. Never, ever, ever despise your students. In fact, if you're a good teacher, you want your students to so far outshine you. Any teacher that doesn't have that attitude is not a teacher, no matter what their paycheck says. Anybody that doesn't want their students to far exceed them is not a good teacher. They might be labeled a teacher, but they are not. They're gathering a paycheck. All true teachers want their students to far outshine them. And I do, and I teach my students, my young ones I'm talking about, with that kind of attitude. And I think I learned that partly because that is not the way I was treated when I was a college student, which is very unfortunate. I believe I know I'm sounding arrogant. I'm a better painter than any of them. And it's unfortunate that I had to become a better painter, not because of their help, but in spite of their discouragement. Whew. Okay, why did I get in all that? I don't know. Somebody out there needed to hear this. If you're a teacher, or if you've been treated poorly by people who called themselves teachers and were not, then I implore you to, like me, get over it, forgive them, move on, bless them. We all have clay feet, but just determine that you're going to do better. You are not going to be to others what your professors were to you. if you had any bad ones. And of course, there's so many more fantastic professors out there in the world than bad ones. And again, these part of what gives me compassion for all my professors is that when at that time in their lives, they were in their 40s and 50s, I think, maybe, yeah, 40s and 50s mostly, which means I am considerably older now than any of them were at the time. And I now know that people in their 40s and 50s have clay feet, have a lot of issues, just like all people of all ages, in other words. When I was young, I had complete awe and respect and so on, as I was trained to respect my elders, and I did. Looking back, I went, oh, you know what, they were kind of messed up. And they were. So anyway, peace, blessing on all my professors, be they dead or alive, and most of them now are dead. But that was one of the issues with my college art department. I had to endure a fair amount of arrogance. Too bad. Most unfortunate. Most, not all of them. Let me hasten to say, not all of them. Not all of them. But some of the key ones in my case. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about painting. I don't have anything to say. Okay, so I've just finished the sky. I fear I've done a little bit too much of it. So here we go. Let's do some anti-painting. Let's do some negative painting with a rag. Mess up some of those dots. I got a little bit of sky dots going down here especially. Do you know that term, sky dots? I think that term was invented on this channel right here. One of my friends. Sky holes done poorly become sky dots. And we do not like sky dots. No, we do not. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, let me get this blue off my brushes. I think now I'm going to start at this fence. Hubo. Does that mean Hugh boy? That was a rant and a tirade, wasn't it? Okay, let's do some titanium white and a little tiny bit of yellow ochre to make a warm titanium white. My favorite color for warming up whites is yellow ochre rather than a pure yellow. Okay, let's do. I think on this job right here, I think I'm going to do a trick I don't do very often, but occasionally. I'm going to paint this fence. As you can imagine, this is a very key part of the painting. The sun hitting this row of pickets right here, right? And then, after I get it painted, I'm going to pick up probably a fan brush, and I'm going to smear the paint to create a glow. As you know, I very often do a separate and distinct glow layer, fuzz layer. And I did not do that on this painting because I didn't feel like it needed it. But because of that, I do need to add some glow. So here we go. I think I've got a fan brush in here somewhere. Oh, here it is, right here. Okay. Did you see? Can you see what I just did right there? Just created that glow. So this brush is now dirty. You got to clean that. And now I have to repaint what I just painted a minute ago. Does that make sense? That smearing, brushy kind of brushwork is not, viewers do not find that a pleasant mark. So whenever you do that kind of brushy stuff, it's usually just a precursor, a setup to come back and do follow-up painting, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing the follow-up. I just decided to pick up a little bit of liquid. I've been painting pure out of the tube paints here, but I just decided let's pick up a little liquid so that these lines will flow a little bit better. I want to get the tops of these pickets. I want to get these pretty accurate, pretty defined, because this is, if not the focal point, it's so close to the focal point that it really, I feel like, needs to be pretty neat. Now, I don't want to carry the neatness that I feel in my soul right now from doing that little bit of fussy painting, fastidious painting, I call it. I really need to be careful now to shake that off and not to carry that feeling of fastidiousness, that feeling of detail on into the next section of the painting, or I will be in trouble. And yes, of course I've done that before. That's how come I know it's a dreadful mistake. A little bit of scratching. I want some of the pickets to be defined. I want them to be defined in different ways. Okay, and I think I'm going to be doing enough painting in this that I'm going to go ahead and mix up a pale blue color of paint. I need a couple fairly small brushes. And to do the shadow side of white objects in this painting. So I want the shadow part of the white stuff to be a mixture of yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. So it's sort of a pale gray. Oh, there's my wife. Hang on just a second, folks. I need to talk to her, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, sweetie. Whoops, hang on. Are you there?
I just called to see how much longer you're going to be out there.
I don't know. I'm doing okay at the moment. So it might be another hour. Maybe not quite an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Feel free to go to bed without me.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, you don't feel like you have to stay up.
Okay, so you don't have anybody talking about commissions for Monday, right?
No, I do not yet, but that's most likely to happen tomorrow.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. What do you? When Mark was talking today, I just got a hunch that it might not be a bad idea. It might be a very good idea for us to stay a couple days since we're already here, and since we're free to be able to do that. Maybe stay somewhere else. Maybe one night with these folks, these other folks. You know, as we talked about tonight. And but anyway, somehow, but to paint it for a couple of days and see what might happen there.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
Okay, I'm open to considering it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see how it goes.
Okie doke.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, sweetie. Okay, love you. Go to bed.
Okay.
Try to stay safe when I
Okay.
get there. Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Charles, for letting me know about the bad sound. Let's go back to this for a while. Very sorry. Thank you for letting me know. While we were gone, I did much of this is an orange house, bright orange there. Need a little bit more of some highlights there, and of course I did some white bright highlights on much of this house. Now it's a little bit too white right there. Let me warm that up a little bit. I'm painting quite a bit this evening with a rag that is putting stuff down and then finding it too intense, and not, instead of getting mad, just get a rag and diminish it, soften it up. And because I didn't do a separate fuzz layer in this painting, and this truly might be a thing of the of the future that I do the fuzz layer at the same time that I do the final layer, which would simply mean I learn to paint looser in the final layer. For instance, do you see those two windows right there? Nice and sharp and crisp, and nice and too sharp and too crisp, right? So I just obfuscated. This is one of the words I like to use. So I just diminished the sharpness there. You know, painting in that way, painting loose, it feels awkward while you're doing it. It feels like, oh, I'm messing up. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I can't do this. I'm messing up. That's the way it feels to me. And I'm convinced that's why people who say they want to paint loose, but they can't ever quite bring themselves to do it. I understand that. I understand that feeling. But it's like a lot of other things in life. You just need to get over the feeling. You are not painting too loose. You are not making too much of a mess. Of course, that sometimes you are. That's the hard part, right? But developing a loose touch is hard. Again, my painting with two hands helps, because when you paint fast with two hands, your brain can't quite keep up. I'm going to take a detour right here and see the shadow side of this white house plays very prominently. In fact, let me get my photograph out again on my phone here. Yeah, there we go. Here it is. In the photograph, I'm trying to see what color it is. Wow. You know what? Man. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. And I am sorry about the problems. Like I said, I'm saving up for a $700 microphone system that is ranked the best. A Sennheiser, and I'm sure hoping they're right. Okay, the paint that's on this wall right now is decidedly green. Of course, way too green and way too dark. And I'm wondering, I'm playing really crazy here. I've actually mixed up, this is so unlike me, it's crazy. I've actually mixed up a very, very pale pink. A nice pink, that is to say, I made it with permanent rose, not with a cadmium or a naphthol crimson, which when those colors go pink, they go yuck. But a permanent rose goes to what I think is a nice pink. Anyway, let me back up and see. Wow. Now, once again, this window is too intense, so I've just besmudged that window, and then I'm gonna undo a little bit of what I just did. Yeah. By the way, I made an interesting observation earlier this evening. I must not have been broadcasting. I looked through fresh eyes, I looked at all the windows, you know, most of them from quite a distance in this scene. Was it here? Yeah, it was here. And this is my fourth painting today, so I want to make sure it was this painting, and it was. And it dawned on me that on the whole, the overwhelming color tint of all those windows, anybody want to guess what color it was when I kind of looked through? Do you know what I mean? When I looked through fresh eyes, like, I've never really looked at them. Look at a street full of windows, and what color are they? I look forward to testing this theory, you know, on other streets. Well, the answer is the windows, by and large, were overwhelmingly green in tint. And I realized that what I was seeing was sunlight going through the glass, hitting usually Venetian blinds of some kind, white, and then coming back through the glass. And it was the double passage through glass. And everybody should know, what color is glass? The normal glass that we use, you know, ordinary cheap glass in our culture. What color is it? The green. That's right. And I had the sense that I was actually seeing the green of glass. I had never really noticed it before. Maybe there was an unusual preponderance of Venetian blinds that were closed on the inside, you know, so because it didn't work if the like this window up here, if it went to black, you know, if it went to darkness. By the way, these windows are way too dark, so I'm fixing them right now. I've got some sort of vaguely lavender color on my brushes. Anyway, I'm going to look for that more in the future, because I know that's what I was seeing. I know that it was because of the color of the glass and the light going through the glass, hitting the Venetian blinds and bouncing back. Because it went through that glass twice, it was definitely green. Wow. Never thought about it before. I know that grass is green. I know that glass is green in tint, but I don't ever remember noticing it like that before. Interesting. Weird things that fascinate artists. Okay, where to go next? This whole roof which is a dark green, I think is just a little too intense. And I think if I can add some blue to it, it will be okay, some blue-gray. So let's mix up some blue-gray real quick. My favorite way to get gray is to mix oxide red with ultramarine blue and white. And you just, if you want a cool gray, you add more blue. If you want a warm gray, you add more brown. But it's just about a perfect gray. In this case, I want a blue gray, a cool gray, so I'm adding more ultramarine. Okay? And I just want to scumble this onto this roof. I want the green to show through. In fact, that's pretty much in all of my entire painting, by the way. My entire painting process. I don't know if you're picking up on this or not, but I want the underpainting to show through almost everywhere. Almost on every part of the painting, the underpainting shows through. Only in a few places do I plaster the oil paint on so thick that it would be approaching what we call opaque paint. I call this last layer light opaque highlights, but the word opaque you would almost have to put in quotation marks, because it really is not opaque. It's opaque paint applied usually thinly enough that it's actually a translucent that we're talking about. Okay, yeah, that worked all right, I think. There's little irregularities in the color, little undulations that are pleasant. I'm going to clean the blue off these brushes. And go back to warm white. Let's do some more warm white highlights. So the last pile of white I had going, I contaminated with pink. So that unless I want to do some more pink somewhere, that pile is pretty much retired for the evening. Okay. Whoops, too much yellow. Too much yellow. Okay. Now, I want to just hit some highlights on this house front is part of this house. Again, I repeat myself so often, but let me say it again. What I'm doing now is one of the most common, safe, dependable rules that you will ever find in painting. And there are not very many rules that almost always work. This is one. And it almost always is a good idea to mix up a color slightly lighter than what's already there, than what's already anywhere on the canvas. It's a good idea to mix up. This is in the opaque world, when we're painting like a traditional oil painter in opaque layers. It's almost always a good idea to mix up a color slightly lighter than what's there and hit little areas of the painting with that lighter color. One of the good words for this I've heard over the years is called sparkle. Adding that sparkle. Yeah, good description. You want your paint, good paintings, sparkle. I'm listening, by the way, to Pandora. I'm assuming that the YouTube computer is not hearing it. I'm assuming it's soft enough. If I'm wrong about that, I will receive a friendly notice from YouTube. But I'm assuming you guys can't hear it. Maybe you can hear a tiny bit of noise, music in the background. Probably not any with the wind that's blowing. Well, anyway, I'm enjoying very much my Pandora station. Oh, and yeah, you want to know what channel is it, don't you? Okay, I'll tell you. Here's what the Pandora channel I'm playing right now is Barcarolle from the opera. Anyway, yeah, the name of the channel is Barc, B-A-R-C-A-R-O-L-L-E, and it's mostly classical and sort of operatic style arias. That's what I'm listening to, and I love it. So I'm getting my classical vocal music fix on while I'm painting. I'm not inflicting it on anybody. When you're by yourself, you can listen to whatever you want to. So you can listen to your AC/DC when you want to. I'm listening to it's not really opera. At the moment, it's Josh Groban. Hardly excessively highbrow. Okay, more of the same. The front of this building now. Okay, part of the painting I'm sort of just following the things that are bothering me the most from one section to the next. So the part that's bothering me the most at the moment is this side of that house right there, and it's supposed to be. Let me look at my photograph again. See, I think it's bluish gray. Yeah, just a slate gray. Yeah. Okay, well, that shouldn't be hard. I've got some slate gray right here, ready to go. And again, the danger here. So I'm doing slate gray on top of an underpainting in this area that is brown, olive, burgundy-ish. It's all these different colors, which is lovely, by the way. That's why I love my technique. I don't mean that. I love my strategy, the way the style, the technique that I paint with, because these fun things happen where I'm doing slate gray on top of all this brownish kind of stuff. It's all different colors. Now I'm doing it on top of purple. Does it sound like I'm having fun? And of course, all of this is through the branches of this live oak tree. So it's all sliced and diced, all cut up by branches. Oh yeah, nice, 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 nice. And again, when an artist says that, he or she is not bragging. At least they shouldn't be. I feel like I'm seeing something unfold before my eyes that I didn't do. It's going beyond anything I did. It's turning into something beyond what I could make up. Does that make sense? I feel like that is the act of good painting. The art of good painting is when something happens on the canvas that you didn't manipulate, that you didn't cause, that you didn't force into existence. It just emerges out of it through a process. Sure, you created the process, you create the environment, but the magic that happens is so independent of you. It's very much how it feels. It does. When the best painting happens, when I don't feel like I did it. It just somehow I created the environment where it could happen, but it happened on its own. It happened independent of me. That's good painting, and that's the way I felt right there. That moment. A few minutes ago when I said, "Wow, that's nice." So I'm not bragging. I was like, I'm rejoicing. I'm marveling. And I like all of that. I just am a little worried now that it's a little bit neat. So now I'm just messing it up. That's all. Just pure tea messing it up. And unmessing a tiny bit. Yeah. Believe it or not. Okay, there's one swipe here that I don't like. Just one that I can see. It's right here, and I'm gonna erase it, unswipe it, if you will. Oh, in fact, and then we're gonna add another swipe over here. Okay, are you with me? That is so weird. Why do we like messy painting? More of the same up here. Okay. Okay, what's bothering me most now? I think good. Still got this color on my. There's another house down here that I think is blue. We can barely see it, so it's hard to say. But I'm going to make it blue because I think it'll fit the painting, and because that's what's already on my brushes, so it's easy to do. I don't need to do much at all. Just a little bit, and even scratch the little I did. Okay. Back to I've got 2 sets of brushes going at much of the painting. These blue and these light warm white. They've gotten messed up a little bit here and there, mixed up a little bit, but generally speaking, that's what I'm doing. So right at the moment, I'm going to do this pale yellow house way back here, but what's on my brushes is way too intense. So whoops, now it's too gray. I've lost my yellowishness. There we go. Let's see if this is close. You want to watch me up close here? I guess you're seeing me pretty well. Again, being very careful not to be too careful. I use that expression a lot when I'm teaching. Be very careful not to be too careful. Be very careful to stay messy. That's what most of you in your painting, because most of you are like most of me, you're a tight painter and you want to get looser. And with each stroke, we should be saying to yourself, okay, be very, very careful not to get too careful. Okay, and I like what I did pretty much, but I am actually going to pick up a rag, like I've been doing several times tonight. I am going to pick up a rag and mess up. Make what I just did even messier. I could do it with a brush. Yeah, let's do this one with a okay. Now the only problem with doing it with the brush is then I have to, clean up a little bit. Use a rag after all. I'm going to erase this tree. Okay, now before I leave this section right here, let's just do the thing. What's the sparkle thing? Maybe that's what I should start calling it. Let's do the sparkle right now. So here's my paint palette. There's what I just painted the side of the house with. You with me? So I just dipped my brush in this titanium white and come over here a little bit more. Even a little bit more. Do you see? So now I have I'm leaning more titanium than I thought. Now I have that same pale yellow, but it's slightly lighter than it was. Okay? So we're going to do the sparkle thing. Where do you put the lighter color? The answer is it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Now it just so happens I'm also going to use this to do some of the trim on the house. So this is a little cheating. This is not sparkle. This is trim on a house. Okay, now let's go back to sparkle. Where do you put it? The answer is pretty much anywhere you want. On top of the darker color that you just put down a minute ago. You can put it almost anywhere. You want to create interesting marks, interesting interplay, so on and so on and so forth. But there we go. That's it. That's that same yellow house now with quote-unquote sparkle. And I've never used that term like this before, but it might be a good term because I would like a one-word. I would like a one-handy term, and that's maybe it's good. So now I don't know if I'm assuming you can see this. Now this house is splotchy. Splotchy. And if there's a grumpy adult inside you watching, that grumpy adult might say things like splotchy. That is not the voice you want to listen to when you're painting. The grumpy adult wants realism, and that the grumpy adult is not a good artist. So you ignore that if by any chance. But yeah, no, the splotchiness looks more better. Looks more realistic. I'm gonna cheat a little bit more here and put a gap between these two pillars. Okay, while I'm at it, this last house way back here is a pale green. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up a pale green since I've got a very pale yellow already on my brushes. Okay, I think that's a good color. Let me look at my photograph again and refresh my memory as to what that house actually looked. Here, by the way, this is one of the reasons I like a Droid phone more than an iPhone. And I'm a Mac guy, so okay. There's a picture I took. Watch how far I can. There's a house way back here I want to see. Just for you artists, if you have an iPhone, here's what you can do. Not that. Here's what you can do. If you have an iPhone, you can do this. And that's about it. If you have an iPhone, maybe you can do that, and that's about it. Okay? You Droid lovers, why don't you get a load of this? 1, 2, 3. So far, and I just tested it again. I went into the store the other day and checked it out. The iPhone can't hold a candle to that magnification. You want to see that again? Here's what I'm talking about. There's this. Sorry. There's the size of the picture. You with me? Let's look at this. Let's look at this black pickup truck right here. Sorry. You with me? 1, 2. Come on, get away. Go away. 3. Now look at that. We can VLW2330. We can read the license plate on that truck. That's darn impressive. Okay, that's and just again, I'm saying that for those of you who are artists and you're wondering whether to go the Droid or iPhone. And again, I'm a Mac guy. I'm an Apple guy. I have had nothing. Well, no, I've had PCs too, but I have nothing but Macintosh computers in my home. But if you're like me, if your phone is really just an excuse to have a camera in your pocket, in other words, if you're an artist and the camera is more valuable than the phone, then you might want to consider getting a Droid, because so far the Macintosh people, the Apple people, are not keeping up in the phone department with the Droid people. Funny. And again, I don't know if you could hear all that with all the wind. Sorry about that. Since I've got green on these brushes now, let's go ahead and do some green on the canvas here and there. And I gotta sit down. I've been standing way too much tonight. Hang on, I'm gonna try putting you on the other side of me. I just dropped you. I wonder what that sounded like. My phone just face planted in the dirt at my feet. Oh, bad wind. I'm so sorry. Bad band of wind. I'm trying to block it. I'm trying to get it downwind from me so you won't get so much noise. Let's see if that's any better at all. sitting down finally. Trying to mix up a very dark, dull green right now. Quite dark and quite dull. I don't want anything bright, so I'm using ultramarine blue and actually mostly ultramarine blue and yellow ochre to get a dull, dark green. Why dull? Why dark? Because I'm going to do lighter green on top of this in a minute. I'm going to do sparkle on this in a minute, but right now I want pretty dull stuff. You know, it dawns on me, I'm going to have to hang up on you guys pretty soon because I'm talking a little bit too loudly and it's getting close to midnight out here and I'm sitting outside, you know, people's houses. So I am going to bid you a fond adieu. I'm going to do that right now. Say thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back online probably sometime tomorrow. Tomorrow's a very busy day. Competition with here. There's a part of me that is a conscientious objector against art competitions. I mean, I know human beings are going to compete no matter what, but there's just something about art that it should not be, you know. Art and competition should not go together in some way. But anyway, here we are. I'll talk to you tomorrow.